Moving into our second session, we are going to talk about the topic Cultivate Innovation to Gain Competitive Edge at Cyberjaya's Global Tech Hub. Allow me to invite Ms. Shafinaz Salim, the Head of Technology Hub Development Division of Cyberview, followed by Mr. John Lowe, Co-Managing Partner, Southeast Asia of Roland Berger, to share with us on Cyberjaya, the Global Tech Hub, and Masterplan.
Okay. Shall I start? Okay. Hi, very good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad that on behalf of Cyberview Sdn Bhd, I'm given the opportunity to share with you the evolution with what's latest happening in Cyberjaya, Malaysia. Okay, with the current pandemic situation, obviously that businesses are currently now thriving to accommodate going through the current situation. So this is where Cyberjaya will take you through the journey on how innovation through global tech hubs will be able for businesses or innovators to sustain and elevate as far as when we swim together during this pandemic. So for Cyberview, we are currently looking into the Cyberjaya development, and where our emphasis is looking at the technology hubs that will provide the necessary ecosystem for the companies, for the innovators to thrive in. And that includes in terms of components of the talent, looking at the types of the right incentives that's suitable for tech companies, to look at the potential collaboration that they can put in place together with other stakeholders, and also other opportunities for such companies to grow. And today we can see that Cyberjaya has taken on for the past 2 decades of journey, whereby we are thriving through with our Living Lab offerings. And these are our unique advantages that Cyberjaya has set in place with the advent of the flourishing startups environment conducive enough for a mix of talent coming from a diversity, as well as for the innovators to test out their new technologies out in the public areas. Today, there's some of the statistics that we can see in terms of the Cyberjaya that has grown thus far from 6,960 acres of a city. Cyberjaya that is currently located in the state of Selangor, next to the central government administration city, Putrajaya. We have a current population more than 140,000, with more than 40% comes from the knowledge workers and also students population. What it means is that with this kind of population, we are in a way the highly tech adopters city, whereby these kind of communities are advent and also open enough to look to try out a new innovation and new applications that may be coming up from the innovators out there. The components of the Cyberjaya is very important with such ecosystem, not just as a place for technologies to do their R&D, but because of the existence of the institutions high learning, the universities, the public amenities, the connectivity, both physical, hard and soft infrastructure from the road, the utilities, as well as the internet connection. Also looking at the future technologies of connectivity, including the 5G. In fact, what I'd like to share also here today, Cyberjaya is the first city that has piloted in terms of the 5G readiness, whereby we have our first 5G open lab in this country that is located in Cyberjaya. Okay. Some of these, the slide here, you can see the mixtures of the companies that we have currently in Cyberjaya. When we first started off with more on the multinational companies, we attracted the big brands into Cyberjaya. Over the time, when the government started to look at also developing the small, medium enterprises, and today we can see the flourishing of these startups. And you can see quite a good number of local innovators are also started to come up with our own homegrown innovation and also local solutions, and working closely with the bigger companies. And also it's very important to have a mix of key agencies that are also located in Cyberjaya, the likes of MDEC itself. And we have other prominent key agencies that specifically looking at their innovation areas, such as the IR4, like MITE. We have Futurize that looks into the National Regulatory Sandbox, MAGIC that also supporting very much looking at the startups development and so forth. And as I mentioned, there are 7 universities and colleges currently located in Cyberjaya, and most of them from the private sectors. And within the vicinity of Cyberjaya as well, we're also working closely with other public universities and also private colleges beyond Cyberjaya, just to make sure that we have a good network and linkages with the academia side, looking at the future readiness of the future talent and also to cater for future jobs. For Cyberjaya, when we evolved way back in 2015, when we embarked on our Global Technology Hub Blueprint, we put in place a strategy framework whereby for Cyberjaya, we are supported by the 2 key strategic pillars. One, we're looking at the smart city, whereby there are three key objectives, looking at the efficiency of public services, looking at improving quality of life and safety of the people and the city, as well as the sustainability, whereby looking at the green environment. And the other important component strategy pillar would be in terms of the living lab. These are the likes of the talent, accelerator, pilot, and enterprise that I'll share with you in a subsequent slides. With this, it will create in terms of the high technology value creation, the innovation, and also jobs of Cyberjaya also for the country and beyond. Here, in terms of the smart city, we are having 4 key strategic quadrants. We're looking at the economy, infrastructure, society, and also the environment. What listed here are actually some of the projects related to smart city and also pilots that Cyberview and Cyberjaya have supported for the startups and also tech companies in implementing or even before they commercialize their products. Interestingly enough, some of these smart city solutions either from local companies, as well as there's also foreign solutions, whereby before they further roll out in the city, it helps them to look at the validation through the pilot that they have in Cyberjaya. And this is actually our signature value proposition, Cyberjaya today. In the past 3 years, through Cyberview Living Lab programs, we have put in place the ecosystem to collaborate, to also provide the linkages with the right key stakeholders for the tech companies, be it the startups and also the bigger SMEs to accelerate. In terms of talent, we look at all the way from the K-12, as young as the K-12, to look at in terms of the expose them to the programming and coding. We have all the right up to the universities, talent in terms of specific industry niche skill sets to get ready for the IR4, and also looking at the startups and also the working professionals in developing further the capabilities and also the skill sets. And Living Lab Accelerator, this is where Cyberview, through its signature Cyberview Living Lab Accelerator, we have run through up to 14 cohorts. To date, we have nurtured 75 startups, focusing on smart city related solutions, robotics, AI, and so forth, whereby some of these startups have graduated and also made it up to the regional level beyond Cyberjaya. And they have also attracted both in local and also international funding institutions, investors, to invest further in them, and they're able to accelerate and also enhance further their products to cater for the markets that they want to penetrate. And some of the companies, when they come to Cyberjaya, it gives them an opportunity through pilot out and test out their solutions, whether it's ready for rollout in any specific market that they're looking at. From here, you can see the good mixtures of some Japanese solution from Korean, as alongside with other Malaysian innovation that have tested out their solutions here in Cyberjaya before they roll it out beyond Cyberjaya. And for the Living Lab Enterprise, this is where we expand our network to be connected with the other private sectors rather than just fully relying on the government for support. We put in place our relationship with the corporate organizations, be it in the financial industry sector. They also can come in the form of the e-commerce players, even in the construction and property players and so forth, because it gives also the market access opportunities for the tech companies that are residing here in Cyberjaya, as well as those outside to potentially actually work together, collaborate, and also partner in their business setting. Today, Cyberjaya is going up for another new journey. We are looking at revitalizing our Cyberjaya master plan, whereby we have now zoned ourselves into 4 dynamic zones. The North Zone, this is where the new global thriving area will be. And we are looking out for this area whereby the upcoming 2 MRT stations will be located and will commute and also connect more people into and out of Cyberjaya. Then we have the downtown Cyberjaya. This is where 2 decades ago where Cyberjaya started off, and today we are seeing more of the concentration of the businesses are located at. And before I go into the South Zone, the West Cyberjaya, this is where, if you're familiar with Cyberjaya, you can see and feel and experience yourself to look at where the education institutions, be it from the primary, secondary schools, international schools. We also have the universities currently located in the West that will nurture the talent from this area. Now looking into the new catalytic zone area that we're going to focus on would be the South Cyberjaya. This will be our new innovation district, whereby we are looking at the 3 new technology clusters to focus on in specific, whereby we're looking at the smart mobility, whereby we're leveraging on the new digital technologies to look at the companies that are coming out with this mobility solution, also providing the mobility as a service, as a test bed. We're looking at both the ground mobility as well as aerial mobility. This is where the examples for such as drone technologies, as well as autonomous vehicle, green electric vehicle, and so forth. And we're looking at these kind of companies to explore and innovate from this area. Smart healthcare is another focus areas that we're looking at. For information, in Cyberjaya next year, we're going to have our first public smart hospital that is anchored by the Ministry of Health. We're with the operationalization of the hospital. We are expecting the value chain across the healthcare industry will be flourishing. The likes of the clinics, the rehab center or dialysis center, or even pharmaceutical companies and so forth. And of course, the technology surrounding it would be the types of companies we would want to see them innovate here. Digital creative, this is another hub as far as Cyberjaya is concerned. We have created quite a prominent name of digital creative players or creative content technologies animation companies in Cyberjaya, the likes of Monster Studio, the likes of Digital Durian, Didi and Friends, they're the name some of their characters or IPs, Giggle and Gigs, and many more. So we want to see the value chain of within the creative content technologies to also explore how they can be working across with the other 2 clusters, perhaps with the mobility and the healthcare, to whereby it can make things or innovation be more visualized, more attractive as far as technologies is concerned. So we're now looking at beyond just a city that provides spaces. Spaces without a soul would be meaningless. So we want to see the innovators now to be innovating further with the combination of the physical and also the ecosystem in place. And my last slide, this year, we've just launched our Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center. This is where a one-stop center that will be able to facilitate any inquiries with regards to business setup, looking for location, we're looking for specific talent assistance, or even the community and city services via the Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center. So I'm coming to the last slide. For any further information, you can go through our website and also WhatsApp contact point. And I will end this with a video. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here today to explain a little bit more and also to give you guys a glimpse of what Cyberview is trying to do. What Shafinaz mentioned earlier on the southern zone, where we intend to build an innovation hub in the southern zone area. So just got a few slides to share with you guys, like I say. In the first slide, you can see, okay, yeah. So in the first slide, a little bit small, so maybe we can zoom in into the entire screen. So here is basically, like I said earlier, on the Southern Innovation Zone. So we were hired by Cyberview to come up with a holistic concept to see how and further drill down into what it looks like, what is the concept, what is the positioning for the new Southern Innovation Zone, and how does each of these hubs operate. Like Shafinaz said, it's not just about building the facilities, but also how do we create, a totally new experience? How do we create a new ecosystem? And also how do we create the soul of each of these hubs? So in summary, if you look at this slide, it basically represents what we're trying to build in the Southern Innovation Zone. First, we have the Smart Mobility Hub. We define basically what is the positioning and what are the core services that we want to provide within each hubs. So you can see for Smart Mobility Hub, the idea is to position Cyberjaya as the Southeast Asia's leading mobility hub, providing easy and fostering the whole innovation ecosystem in there by anchoring on 4 key services. So the first one is on-demand mobility, second is autonomous vehicle, third, transport management, and 4, area mobility. Similarly, in the Smart Healthcare Hub, again, we want to position Cyberjaya in the Southern Zone as a leading livable healthcare hub, not just a hub, but also a living lab, where it's also anchoring on 5 key services. The first one is medical devices, second is healthcare analytics, third, telehealth, fourth, smart digital management, and then also on the 5th one is can't even see, sorry, medical devices and also the platforms.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon. We would like to apologize for the slight delay that you have experienced. We experienced a slight technical glitch, technical difficulty, but the good news is the session is back on. And now we will start with a fireside chat session for the Digital Investment Summit of Malaysia Tech Month 2020, organized by MTech. My name is Nadia Azmi from Cyberview, Sinan, Berger, and I will be your moderator for today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we know, the pandemic has left businesses swimming against the current, and organizations that have digitalized their businesses and offerings, however, were able to surface quicker. And according to a global survey by McKinsey, organizations these days are forced to speed up the adoption of digital technologies and digitization by 3 to 4 years to meet market demands more rapidly. And on this note, organizations that are looking for a solid start to their innovation journey can actually explore global tech hubs, which offer a supportive ecosystem, including an efficient operating environment with a high degree of certainty and consistency. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is crucial in today's volatile and highly competitive business environment. Cyberview actually champions Cyberjaya as a vibrant global tech hub, especially as we head into the 4th industrial revolution. As the tech hub developer of Cyberjaya, we at Cyberview are fully aware of the tremendous potential that a collaborative innovation ecosystem brings to foreign investors, local businesses, and MNCs in their growth. The Global Tech Hub of Cyberjaya offers commercial and industrial players a conducive environment to embark on their innovation journey and grow their business, of course, supported by its affordable and stellar infrastructure, a wealth of human capital, customized incentives, as well as reliable government and regulatory support. Now, our conversation today is about how forward-looking companies can gain their competitive edge through innovation and readily available opportunities amidst today's challenging business environment. Without further ado, let me introduce our panel speakers to talk about Cultivate innovation to gain competitive edge at Cyberjaya's Global Tech Hub. We have Kamarul Muhamed, who is the founder and CEO of Aerodyne Group, a Malaysian drone solutions company that is ranked 2nd in the world by Drone Industry Insights of Germany. Aerodyne was also named as Frost & Sullivan's Asia Pacific UAV Services Company of 2019 and a recipient of the Institute of Engineering and Technology, IET Malaysia's Industry Excellence Gold Award 2019. Kamarul has led Aerodyne from a 3-person startup in 2014 to a global company with over 400 strong drone professionals operating in 35 countries in less than 5 years. He is also a TEDx speaker and a drone industry thought leader and has presented his ideas and innovations on AI, drone, and Industry 4.0 around the world. Good to have you, Encik Kamarul. Next, we have Dr. Khairul Faizi Khalid, who is the Operations Manager, Asia Pacific for Hematogenix Syndrome Berhad. Prior to this, Dr. Khairul served as the Head of Business Development in Clinical Research Malaysia, a company owned by the Ministry of Health, where he contributed immensely in establishing global business and clinical research networks for Malaysia. His most notable contribution was the setting up of the Phase 1 Realization Project, where Malaysia established its capacity for running Phase 1 clinical trials. His vast experience and networks in pharmaceutical, clinical trials, and healthcare industry allows him to oversee the establishment of Hematogenix. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to remind you before we officially start, we will have a Q&A session at the end of the conversation today. There's a chat box function here where you can submit your ideas and questions at any time throughout today's discussion. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these panelists that we have here today, they have something in common. They are based right here in Cyberjaya. So just now in an earlier session, you heard about the importance of the new Cyberjaya Masterplan as presented by Shafinaz Salim from Cyberview and why it is significant in revitalizing Cyberjaya. Today we will talk to catalysts in the 3 tech clusters of including smart mobility and smart healthcare, and we'll find out from them why it is such important to be in a global tech hub like Cyberjaya. Now, Encik Kamarul, let's start off with you. Aerodyne being ranked 2nd in the world as a drone solutions company, we can't deny that Aerodyne is a technology leader globally, not just in Malaysia. So what innovative solutions can we see next, Encik Kamarul, in the areas of drone tech? And also what more can be done to increase the adoption of emerging technologies in cultivating smart mobility solutions?
Sure. Everybody knows about drone. Drone itself called, the other name for drone is UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, right? So everybody, or UAS, unmanned aerial system. So everybody is familiar with the fact that drones are unmanned, but that is not really just where it is going in the future. The future of drones are nested, smart, and collaborative system. I mean, that's actually the key thing that we are most excited about. A lot of parents come to me and say, hey, I want to send my children to be part of your organization. What kind of course should they do so that they want to be a drone pilot? I always tell them, please don't do that. The future of drone is what I just said. It's nested, it's collaborative and smart, right? So imagine this, drones of the future are smart aerial robots that automatically, optimize the operations of whatever mission that we give them. Whether it's drone delivery, whether it's taking care of security or whatever, right? That is the next evolution of drone technology. So today, yes, it's still being operated by a pilot on the ground. It is governed by various regulations and all that. 5 years from now, it's going to be a totally different landscape. So in the meantime, before 5 years down the road, there are a lot of things that are that we are very excited about. For example, drone delivery is one of the fastest growing vertical. If in the past we are always familiar with getting things delivered in probably 3 days, or in the Klang Valley within 24 hours. But delivery in the future is going to be within a couple of hours, not a couple of minutes. Once you have a network of a system, a network of drones located all over the countries, working collaboratively to do the delivery. And it is not just for delivery; it is also for other use cases for drone. For example, we are here in Malaysia. We have drones all the way in the UK. We can operate those drones. And those are just nested systems. But in the future, these drones are fully autonomous, which means that it is already fully aware of its mission environment. It can already make its own corrections to its own flying and all that. So that's actually what's coming in the future. So drone industry, as we know today, are primarily operated, primarily driven by data technology, which is what we are at the forefront of it, where we use, we are actually a DT3 company. So drone tech, data tech, and digital transformation. So we use drone technology to deliver and we use our data technology to actually enhance run the value and deliver disruptive solutions for our customer. So that's actually where the drone industry is heading at the moment.
And even now with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it has accelerated the need to use such technologies like drones. In fact, Aerodyne has assisted PDRM during MCO for them to conduct monitoring in areas where it's a little bit difficult for them to access. So kudos to Aerodyne. Now, Dr. Kai, while smart healthcare is still fairly new in Malaysia, you have certainly proven to be a disruptor in the healthcare industry. Now, Hematogenix is a global cancer-focused life science company. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this?
Thank you, Nadia, for the question, and thank you, MDEC and Cyberview for inviting Hematogenix. Probably one of the first, I would say, public forum that we have for the Asia Pacific Hematogenix branch. So just a little bit of Hematogenix before I go into your questions, Nadia. So basically, Hematogenix is actually a global-based contract research organization. Mainly, we are focused on cancer research diagnostics, and we serve our clients, namely our patients, as well as pharmaceutical companies. Now, we have global offices, which is headquartered in Tinley Park, Illinois. And we have offices, we have got labs in Manchester, UK, which caters our European markets. We have a unit in Shanghai, which covers China, and latest, which is in Cyberjaya, where I am taking this call from. So we are located in Cyberjaya, which is going to be the hub for Asia Pacific. So essentially, when the president and CEO started up this company back in 2008, Dr. Haitham Al-Masri. So in cancer patients, right? So there's a very tight knit companionship between testing and treatment. That's still true up to today. And we are at the cusp of innovation in terms of cancer research and cancer treatment. And even at this point in time, this is still ongoing process, right? So when we're talking about other diseases, we're talking about years of prolonging patient's life. But in cancer, we're talking about months, right? Even a few months of prolonging patient's life or 5-year survival, this is something which is a breakthrough. And we are lucky we're part of this process whereby pharmaceutical companies that we work with, their clients, sends their patient test samples, whether it's bone marrow or it's blood or it's cancer tissue cells. They send over to us for us to do the testing. So what we're trying to do here, when the founder started up the company, was to actually really narrow the gap between testing and getting the treatment faster to the patient, because time is of essence, and every time that we reach the gap between this cancer testing and treatment, of course, we're saving patients' lives. So that's obviously the ultimate thing why when the founder started up the company. But as far as smart mobility and smart healthcare is concerned, yes, you were right, Nadia, that smart healthcare is something, I would say it's a trend that is really gaining traction right now. And Hematogenix is at the forefront of this smart healthcare. I'll explain in a short while. The reason why we have an Asia Pacific hub here, right out of Cyberjaya, is in order for us to be a 24 hours operation, right? So our, Tinley Park is 14 hours, behind us. So what we're trying to do, because these samples are all, I think probably Kamarul also will have to work with you soon, because our samples, which is blood as well as tissue samples from patients, are of time sensitive, right? So we need to get this to our lab as soon as possible. So we have even before we started off our operations here, we in the midst of operating. We have 5 projects already coming in, and these samples are coming in from Japan, right from the patients, and they need to arrive at our doorsteps within a strict 24 to 48 hours before we can test them up for any biomarkers, right? So that's why it's very crucial for us to have a 24-hour shop, whereby if we were to be able to be processing the samples here, whatever that we need to do the next subsequent processes, whether it's analytics, whether it's completing the reports, we can send it over to the US and vice versa, right? Whatever that they can complete the wet works there, they can send over here. So literally we are a 24-hour shop. And we harness the very innovative, I would say, science in every way. we have a functioning because when we deal with electronic medical, we're talking about very sensitive data, right? Patients' data, patients' record. These are all highly confidential. We have to have a database set up right out from Cyberjaya here. So we have a DR or our data center based out of here, and it's connected with our US as well. So a lot of things that we're doing in Cyberjaya here in Hematogenix Asia Pacific is like what you said. This is really harnessing the innovative aspect of healthcare technology. And we right now, last month we have just also contributed in the COVID-19 testing. So we are part of 19 global consortium of big pharmaceutical companies who does testing for worldwide as well. Hopefully we can offer this to Malaysia soon.
I think this is the beauty of being in a global tech hub like Cyberjaya, where we can have and gather all key industry players such as yourself, Dr. Kai, and also Kamarul from Aerodyne to come together into one place. And just now we've witnessed a potential collaboration, as you mentioned, with between Hematogenix and also Aerodyne. And that's what the Cyberjaya Masterplan is all about. It has been designed to enable all these 3 tech clusters of smart mobility, smart healthcare, and also digital creative to synergize together and collaborate with one another. And let's go back to healthcare. Innovation in healthcare has tremendous potential, and this is why we have identified this as one of the 3 focus areas under the new Cyberjaya Master Plan. And with this master plan also, Cyberjaya is divided into 4 districts: North Cyberjaya, West Cyberjaya, South Cyberjaya, and Downtown. All these 4 districts will come together with a singular aim of driving the development of Cyberjaya to become a vibrant global tech hub. And in particular, South Cyberjaya has become a fundamental piece to the new master plan as it anchors the development of these 3 tech clusters. And they have been identified as the future pillars for the growth of Cyberjaya. So ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, we aim, of course, to strengthen our city's ecosystem. Now, Encik Kamarul, let's go back to Aerodyne. Now, Aerodyne has been in our Cyberjaya ecosystem for a year now. You were actually based in PJ before this, before you decided to move to Cyberjaya. Can you share examples of how Aerodyne has utilized our tech ecosystem to develop and pilot new products? And perhaps this is why it has attracted you and your company to actually move to Cyberjaya from PJ.
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, Cyberjaya provides just the right environment, just the right atmosphere over here. I mean, our team just loves being here in Cyberjaya. When we move, we brought along additional 250 new populations to Cyberjaya, and some of them have moved over here, bought houses over here, some of them rented houses. So it does provide that kind of a positive atmosphere. Just the baseline of it is there, right? But of course, the other value is that the ecosystems are here. There's a lot of different players here as well. Our investors are here. Our strategic partners, our ecosystems are here. So it's making it a lot more, a lot easier to connect the dots with one another. And then the synergy that we've gotten. Let's talk about our stakeholders, our investors, and all that. So 3 or 4 our investors are also based here as well. And we work very closely with MDEC. We work very closely with, of course, Cyberview and Magic as well over here. And this facilitates us in developing various solutions. This facilitates us even growing some of the areas that we wanted to do. For example, let's talk about one of the key constraints in doing drone operation is actually regulatory control, or rather regulatory constraint. So here we have in Cyberjaya so many parties who are actually working together with us to connect with the regulators so that we can get a positive structure moving forward. And then within less than 1 year, we are getting a very positive revision to civil aviation authorities, regulation when it comes to drone. Within this 1 year as well, we've developed for example, solutions for geospatial intelligence, where we actually work with MCMC in the beginning to develop that solutions to help PDRM. And of course, MDEC helped us a lot with visibility, connecting the dots with various regulators. We did various events in Tokyo, in London, even in the US, where MDEC actually played a role in connecting the dots to us, And recently, we are developing a new agricultural-based solution where Magic plays a very significant role in making all the connections so that we can do these large-scale operations in a very, very quick time. And I'm very excited to share that within the past 3 months, we have now developed new solutions called Agrimo for the agriculture. It's an agricultural super app that we can connect all the stakeholders, we can connect all the key technology to do precision agriculture in an app, and we have already started to roll this out, and of course, the ecosystem here has been amazing, helping us to do this in a very quick manner as well. So we have a brilliant, nice facility here as well. Thank you, Cyberview. In just 1 year, we already fully utilized the facility.
Yes, I've been to your office and it's very impressive in Kamarul. Now, Kamarul, it's interesting that you mentioned about regulators. I think that's one of also the advantages of being in Cyberjaya. Under Cyberview, we have a subsidiary called Futurize, where they help businesses and companies connect with policy and policymakers and regulators, because somehow I think we can see two sides to this. Innovation and technology is moving very fast. And it requires a new kind of thinking, a new kind of mentality. Whereas those who are policymakers and regulators, their mindset may be a little different, perhaps I can say in the old world. So I think it's very important that we educate them as well, so that we can meet in the middle, so that, regulations and the law is still very important. But it is also important for us to be able to deploy innovation, deploy and commercialize innovation and technologies in a rapid manner, because it only moves in a very fast environment. So I think with Futurize on board under Cyberview, they help innovations and technologies like Aerodyne, for them, they will expedite the regulatory process so that it makes it easier for businesses to deploy their technologies. Now, Dr. Kai, Malaysia offers the second most competitive R&D incentives in Asia. And on top of that, Cyberjaya as a smart city provides rich growth opportunities for tech companies to venture into R&D and C. And what exactly attracted Hematogenix to set up your central laboratory on oncology in Cyberjaya, the first, the one and only for Asia Pacific? Again, just like how Aerodyne moved to Cyberjaya from PJ, what was the reasoning behind Hematogenix's move to Cyberjaya?
Thank you, Nadia. So, Kamarul, you and I are just barely 1 year here. I thought you were here for longer than I am. So pretty much okay. So to answer your question, Nadia, I think when we were the founder, Dr. Hassan Al-Masri, when he came here back in 2016, when we were scouting the region, Asia Pacific region. So naturally, most of global pharmaceuticals, I know a lot of people wouldn't like what I would say, but naturally the selection for Asia Pacific would be Singapore, right? And I think so two agencies, namely MIDA and Clinical Research Malaysia, where I used to work with, were I think a cornerstone why Malaysia is being selected. One is, I think from a country perspective, I think I realized this when I was working from a global business development perspective, right? So Malaysian talents, and even, the fabric of our society, realize it or not, we all speak very good English. And technically that makes our entry barrier in terms of language entry barrier of doing and conducting business, also conducting our operations here, is a breeze from a company's perspective, right? And secondly, I think a main reason why we chose Malaysia, i.e., and I'll come to Cyberjaya in a short while, was because our regulatory landscape here is quite, I think, was very well geared towards research, especially clinical research. And when we talk about the skill of doing things that Hematogenix does, especially making Malaysia as a hub. So we're talking about samples, biological samples, that is blood, bone marrow, and cancer tissue from patients coming into Malaysia. So as a country, we are used to sending out samples outside. So when we want to set up the Asia Pacific hub here, so we'll be receiving in tons of thousands of samples coming in, right? So when we came in 2016, 2017, we met with CRM back in 2017. So a lot of groundwork before we decided to Cyberjaya to locate our labs was pretty much like you said, Nadia, was pretty much ironing out regulatory hurdles, as well as I would say, frameworks which framework that we need to fit into. So there was a lot of discussion with Ministry of Health, with the customs, with investment authorities, namely MIDA, and now Cyberview comes into picture because we are in Cyberjaya. So technically, a lot of this plays a role when we decided to, okay, so Malaysia has equivalent number of talents, equivalent entry as Singapore. We have, of course, we do have logistic barriers to overcome with, which we have done it. So technically, we are at par with Singapore with at least 1/3 of the cost efficiency to start off things here. So I think from a Malaysia perspective, and now Cyberjaya comes into place because from the facilities perspective, as well as from a location perspective, because like I mentioned before, we need to get our samples as soon as possible to our facility. And because of good connectivity to the airport and also location close to the airport. So this is something of very importance to us to locate here. And I think the fabric of society in Cyberjaya, it's naturally we have talents which is based out of Cyberjaya itself, right? So we do have specialized software developers based out of here. We do have PhD candidates who are based out of Cyberjaya, because I think that technically Cyberjaya is also like a younger, I would say, a community here. So blessed with that. And I think that's where the reason why we choose Cyberjaya. Of course, there's a lot of properties here. I mean, Cyberjaya and Seti Haruman and the property developers here did a good job in terms of getting buildings properly built. So a lot of things that make us, I think, would choose Malaysia. But ultimately, I would pin down to 3 things. Number one, a good agency setup that drives. We have a really focused agency setup for clinical research that makes a lot of difference because, like you mentioned, Nadia, drug development, cancer research, R&D, this is highly regulated environment, and innovation versus regulatory, it's inversely proportional. When we're trying to push innovation forward, regulators, not to say backwards, I mean, obviously we will have to work hand in hand with regulators. And I think we also have, I would say, responsibility to also educate our fellow regulators in order for us to move forward. I think this is a cornerstone of any innovation ecosystem as well. So that's number one. Number two is, of course, the location. And thirdly, I think the talent pool in Malaysia itself is untapped with, right? We've got a lot of PhD. I was talking this to Sinan and also Mr. Kamarul just now. We've got a lot of PhD candidates graduated, got a lot of good fundamental work in science, but don't have fundamental work in terms of science. So we in Hematogenix, we offer this because we don't only just do testing. As a company, we also develop this testing, right? For example, I think the latest, I would say, platform that we use is next generation sequencing. We have offered a few platforms for acute myelocytic leukemia. And we are doing a lot more testing on newer platforms. And because the company is platform agnostic, we don't do testing on one single platform, i.e. machines. We do have a lot of machines so that we are all-rounded in terms of, we call it platform agnostic. So from a company's perspective, we've got a lot of science work that we need talents to actually transfer our knowledge to, and we are gladly working this with Malaysians. So naturally, obviously, Cyberjaya will be a good place. Plus, thanks a lot to MDEC as well as Cyberview for hosting us here as well.
Dr. Khai, you mentioned about talent, and I think talent and human capital is one of the companies or a business's most important asset to move forward. But before we move further in our webinar, I'd like to remind our audience members that you can submit your questions and ideas through the chat box that's available in this Zoom platform. So you can submit them at any time throughout this discussion. We still have more time before we get to the Q&A session at the end. So going back to talents, I have a question for both Dr. Kai and also Encik Kamarul. Technology, as we know, is always changing in a rapid manner and is evolving. So are we on the right track in Malaysia, particularly in equipping our youth with the right skill sets in order to face the challenges and to face digitalization and digital transformation? In Cyberjaya alone, we have 7 universities and colleges where industry players in this global tech hub can get their talents from. University of Cyberjaya, for instance, Dr. Kai, most of their courses are medical based. So something that Hematogenix could also look into. But as for Malaysia, are we in the right track in equipping our talents and the future innovators with the right skills? Encik Kamarul, can we go to you first?
Sure. I mean, this is the era of globalization. This is one world moving forward. So we need to be competitive globally. It's no longer enough that we are champion in our own countries. It's borderless. Fair enough, COVID-19 puts more border to this, but moving forward is about us being able to compete globally, meaning that we need to have world-class technology. We need to have world-class individual working for any organization so that we can deliver those, right? So there are a lot of things that we do right in Malaysia. We do manage to get a steady stream of talents. Just a couple of weeks ago, we advertised only for 3 positions to send to Latin America. Within 1 day, we've gotten like over 100 applicants, so we have to close it immediately. But of course, COVID situation helps that as well. I think a lot of people are jobless at the moment. But see, the supply of talents are plentiful. We do get very, very good talent. They are technically savvy. So that fills a lot of the gap in terms of doing some of the engineering and development work. What we need to improve upon is primarily talents that can work on deep tech. So that's one area that we need to improve a little bit. But generally, we are very happy. I mean, this is a good place for us to be. We are getting steady supply of talent. But to be honest, right now we are also doing some development outside of Malaysia. You know, only because we are competing globally. Because at the end of the day, we want to be a global champion, and which is our mission. You know, even today we just announced a closing of another acquisition in Australia. We just acquired another.
Congratulations.
Another company in Western Australia, and a couple more to come in weeks to come. So we have a clear direction or a clear mission, a clear vision to be a world-class player when it comes to delivering this DT3 solution. You know, and it's highly competitive in nature. We need to deliver. We need to develop the best of technology. And in order to do that, we need to have the best of talents. So the good news is that there are plenty of those available in Malaysia, and Malaysia is also a good location to attract foreign talents to come over here. So, and why not? We have lovely weather. We have, you know, our cost of living is actually very nice. People who comes here from overseas, they can live like a king over here in Malaysia, right? That adds a lot of value to Aerodyne as well. But frankly, like I said, it's not all perfect. You know, we have done a few things right, but if we can improve on some matters, which is another passion of mine, engaging on talent development and all that, because frankly, the jobs of the future is not the jobs that we design, or rather the education that we designed 5-10 years ago. You know, jobs of the future really belong to the polymaths, people who are multi-skilled, you know, rather than specialists. You do need specialists as well, but the economy, the industry, the technology is moving so fast, right? AI is going to supersede human capability in just 20 or less than 30 years from now, right? So that means that a lot of the detailed work, you know, can be done by AI. I mean, they're going to be doing this not just hundreds of times faster than us human. They can be doing this in billions of times, and it is already coming. So there's no denying that already. So jobs of the future are very different to what we designed in the past. So that's the only other thing that I would say we need to look at if you want to be competitive, if you want to win this situation.
Dr. Kai, what are your thoughts on talent in the smart healthcare industry?
A lot of things Cik Kamarul has pretty much touched on. I think to add on, even from the healthcare industry itself, you can see there's a lot of usage in AI. Despite, I would say, eventually we will have to have a specialist, authorizing the final outcome. But there's a lot of AI already in place. For example, some of our machines here are using high magnifying power to identify cells which are, I would say, cancerous or malignant, right? So instead of counting each individual, so there are already algorithms to just pick up the fluorescence number and churn it out. Even more so in the next generation sequencing, where there's a lot of AI at the back, sequencing, understanding which sequence of the DNA is actually whether it's missense mutation, whether it's a different duplication of this database, bases. So technically, a lot of this application does not need somebody who's a specialist in mathematics alone, right? So you need people who can solve problems, who can connect the dots. And I will have to agree, it's multi-talent. I wouldn't say multi-talent. Of course, you've got one talent which is more prominent than the rest, but I think the correct word would be probably the English idiom, jack of all trades and master of none. But of course, we still need to have master, going on. But the current situation right now, definitely it's for jack of all trades, right? Because we need people who's not just, even myself, I'm a medical doctor for once, right? So in order for us to adapt to the latest technology, you need more, I would say, context, more knowledge. You need to have more broader, open-minded sense to understand knowledge, because knowledge is not just gained from books and universities, right? We can equip students with fundamental knowledge, but I think the practical and also industry experience is something that we probably will have to. I'm not too sure whether it's a curriculum, you can actually make a curriculum out of it, right? But definitely something that the education sector will have to look at into very, very seriously. And I think the education right now, I think the policy that we really need to impart right now is the emphasis of STEM, right? So science, technology, and mathematics is something that, in order for us to future-proof, I think this is a word which is getting more prominence now. In order for us to future-proof not just Malaysia as a whole, but touching on talent development itself, we really need to have an emphasis in this STEM, right? There's nothing that we can move on AI. There's nothing that we can move on any smart mobility, smart healthcare if our students are not grasped with enough STEM background. I think that's pretty much out of it, not just for healthcare alone.
Right, I think many people can agree with that. Before we wrap up today's session, Encik Kamarul, how do you envision Aerodyne's growth to be? The drone technology is evolving. It's gaining more and more traction by many parties. How do you envision your company's growth to be? And also, how do you see the drone landscape in Malaysia, particularly, to transform in the next few years to come?
Very interesting question. All that I can say is that we have a very big, hairy, scary vision, and that is to be a global champion. All odds are against us. But we are game. We are pushing towards this vision. We are steadily putting all our technology, our people around the world. We are now in every continent except North and South Pole, right? Arctic and Antarctica. Of course, some of them are still early stage. What we are
send drones there, Cik Kamarul.
Oh yeah, right. So what we are doing right now is actually to push the limit, to continue to innovate. And it's a very tough battle out there. We are facing competition from left, right, and center. Some comes from countries who are very much deep-rooted in innovation and in R&D. So we are almost David against Goliath. We have shown in the past that we can slay the giant. And we want to do the same again as we move forward. There are bigger giants ahead of us, but we are game. We want to, for once, prove to the world, and especially prove to Malaysia that we can be a global tech giant, and we are determined to do this. And we need all the help that we can, and it's a very tough journey, to be honest with you. So I am utterly grateful to all the Aero Rangers that we have in Aerodyne right now, all 450 strong individual. We could be around 2020 months, 12 months from now. We are growing very, very rapidly. I would like to think that we are on track to our global vision. But yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's a tough battle. And it's a vision that scares me into nightmares sometimes at night. But we are not slowing down. We want to be this global champion when it comes to growth.
That's good to know, Encik Kamarul. Also, you mentioned about competition. While competition is good and healthy, but in Cyberjaya, we also promote collaboration, as we've mentioned all this before. It's important to have a holistic ecosystem, and I think that's what Cyberjaya provides. You also...
Sorry. I don't view the drone companies here in Malaysia as our competitors. The Malaysian drone companies here are actually our collaborators. We can grow together.
Yes.
We can do a lot.
You work with other drone companies as well.
With a lot of other drone companies. I'm talking about being a global champion.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And with that, we are facing significant challenge out there.
Yes, and with Aerodyne being based in Cyberjaya, we also hope to be able to attract more companies in the same industry and sectors to come together, to come into Cyberjaya, and you can work together in a collaborative and multi-stakeholder environment. Dr. Kai, Dr. Kai, you mentioned about how Hematogenix is also involved in several initiatives, I think, in light of COVID-19. Now everyone is in a race to find solutions. And also now we have pharmaceutical companies looking for a vaccine for COVID-19, and it looks like we're almost there. What is your take, and how do you foresee the smart healthcare industry, the future of smart healthcare in Malaysia?
I would take that I would say two different angles. One in the sense of drug development. Obviously, we see a lot of, I just read through an article last week, interestingly, right? So usually drugs or even vaccine takes years, 5, 6 years, probably 10 years, to get things moving, simply because like Cik Kamarul said, right? So drug development is also that you build up your drones. There's a lot of hurdles our researchers have to go through, mainly regulatory, getting grants, up to a certain level in order for these drugs to get it to certain clinical trial stage. But what we have seen, within a short span of probably less than a year, a lot of these already projects by a few companies already, sitting on the back burner or speed walk within 1 year, and then they go straight away to phase 3 clinical trials. And we will see probably before the end of the year an emergency usage of these, vaccines approved by the FDA. So what I'm trying to say here is, from a drug research perspective, and we are in Hematogenix, we are blessed that we have a bit of exposure now with COVID-19, simply because we've got all these platforms in our lab, right? It's just to capitalize on our assets, to expand it to include COVID-19 testing, because COVID-19 is in infectious disease area, whereby we are specialized mainly in cancer. In cancer research, but critical times demands us to go at critical length. So what we have been part of is a consortium of 19 global labs and global pharmaceutical companies, whereby we have agreed to collaborate with each other rather than compete with each other, share knowledge, and advance not just the drug development portion of it, but also testing up, right? So you can see, as I mentioned before, not just in cancer research, even in COVID testing, we need more, I would say, lesser in terms of turnaround time, in order, rather than 48 hours, we need faster time for us to get this testing up and running. And we can do so with our capabilities in-house. So that's why we have scientists, manning our machines, looking through, latest protocol, assessing new assays for us to move forward. So technically, these are all essence of smart healthcare that we're trying to move. So in essence, we are lucky to be part of this journey, right? So my take of the COVID-19 vaccine, until we see more data out of it, and it's not going to be definite because this is just at the end of phase 3. We have got another phase 4 where we still collect data from safety of these patients in order for us to understand better. Because as you can see, there's already, let's just take dengue for example. We do have dengue vaccine already available in market, but that's phase 3, right? Once it goes to phase 4, we have a lot of safety issues. So the same thing with COVID as well, where all business business entities or business owners hope that this COVID-19 vaccine will be something that we can hopefully mitigate our business. Everybody's hopeful, right? But of course, from the medical community and from scientific community as well, we have we have to safeguard the patients and also the overall safety of patients as a whole. So as much as we are optimistic, but we will still see what's the data that is coming out. But essentially, we hope one day once our operations are running, we can offer this COVID-19 to Malaysian as well. And just to add on, because we just, a stone's throw away from Institute Cancer Negara, hopefully we can also contribute, to our cancer testing as well.
That's amazing. Now, before we finally wrap up today's session, just one final question for both Encik Kamarul and Dr. Khai. Very briefly, what do you have to say to companies and businesses out there who are considering to be part of the Cyberjaya ecosystem? Encik Kamarul?
Yeah, I think come over. It's an amazing. You don't have the issue associated with 4 seasons. For example, I have potential partners already considering to come and work together with us here in Cyberjaya. Some of them have constrained because of 4 seasons. They cannot do their testing during winter, and for the Europeans or even the Japanese, having the sun the year round is a big plus. And of course, we have talent pools. We have amazing talent pools. We have cost advantage. People here are very literate. Language is also not a problem. Seriously, we operate in so many countries, and then language is actually can be an issue as well. So yeah, I think we do have the right ingredient to make it big here in Cyberjaya.
Wonderful, Dr. Khai.
Just take the leap of faith and have it here in Cyberjaya, because I think probably Encik Kamarul has already did it before. We got plenty of space here. I think you guys can, from Cyberview and also MDEC can search, place everyone who wants to come here. And as far as a global tech hub is concerned, this is where to be, right? So you're close to the airport. You've got major highways connecting Cyberjaya to the airport straight away. Major highways getting straight away to downtown KL. So, pretty much we got everything here. And we've got, as far as community of Cyberjaya is concerned, there's good residential areas. I cycle along Cyberjaya all day. So, every day as well. So, there's a big pieces of things that, you can get from Cyberjaya, as far as we're concerned, whether it's from research community, whether it's from drone. Encik Kamarul can be a testament to that, whether it's autonomous driving. I see a few lanes already, having a signage of autonomous driving, being tested. If you even a sports enthusiast, there's bicycle lanes, there's so there's a bit of pieces of everything for everyone here in Cyberjaya, including that of global companies as well. And I think having a few data centers based out of Cyberjaya as well helps, because that's very, very crucial. So technically, to whoever who wants to come to Cyberjaya, of course, this is something that we also hope to bring in investments, whether it's from pharmaceutical companies, whether it's from medical devices companies, or from diagnostic company for that matter.
Yes, Dr. Khai, in fact, 60% of Malaysia's data centers are located here in Cyberjaya. Yes, and Encik Kamarul, final words before we wrap up?
Let me just add to that. Is actually, we did not mention various government incentives as well to come over here.
Yeah.
So that's actually a big plus to potential investors or companies to come and set up shop here in Cyberjaya.
Yes, that's right. We have incentives available for those who are here in Cyberjaya. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have for today. On behalf of MDEC and also Cyberview, thank you to Encik Kamarul from Aerodyne and Dr. Kai of Hematogenix for being our panelists for today. I think it was a very interesting and insightful discussion. Thank you once again for all our audience also joining us in this discussion themed Cultivate Innovation to Gain Competitive Edge at Cyberjaya's Global Tech Hub with the new Cyberjaya Masterplan kicking in. I'm sure that we all can't wait to see the progress that's about to come and that we will be witnessing. So once again, thank you to everyone till we meet again. Thank you.